Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for our 4th annual Deathmatch. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are pitting two very similar games that are both alike in play style, but that's pretty much it. We have two hidden movement games going mono ahead to see which one will come out on top. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. First up, hailing all the way from Italy, we have Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space, a game designed by Mario Porpora, Pietro Regai Riva, Luca Francesco Rossi, and Niccolo Tedeschi. One of those names sounds very familiar, and Osprey Games is a hidden movement game where you and a handful of players are trying to accomplish different goals based on who you are. If you are the humans, you're trying to get to an escape pod and getting the fuck out. If you are an alien, you're trying to snatch one of them humans and hum nom nom so they cannot escape. And the first person to do what they gotta do wins. And you have officially escaped the aliens from outer space. Now, Whitehall Mysteries is a miniaturized version of a game called Letters from Whitechapel, in which you are either Jack the Ripper or these dumbass investigators trying to locate him as he is dropping body parts around town. Mr. Jack wins if he can sprinkle all them body parts all over town, and the investigators win if they can arrest Mr. Jack before he can do that. Now, we are gonna pit these games against each other. They got a couple of things in common, but there's a lot of differences. Let's see which one of these games is getting kept coped and which one is never to be heard from again.
Round one.
Theme. Now, theme is wonderful. Everyone loves a good theme. Now, the themes for these games are very, very simple. It's basically Alien and then Gross London and Jack the Ripper. So it's really going to depend on your flavor and your taste. If you enjoy an Alien ripoff, which is what this is, you're going to enjoy Escape the Aliens in Outer Space. If you enjoy modern ye old London, England, then this is gonna be your bag. I am a true crime nut. I do enjoy true crime and all the serial killer crazy silly things, but I also love horror movies. And one of my favorite horror movies is in fact Alien. And Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space is not an alien game, but it's basically an alien game. But Whitehall Mysteries is not a ripoff of anything. It's just the theme of the game. And when you're playing the game, you feel very tense and you're like, I dig it. But this box, as soon as you open it, it is just filled to the brim with, it just invokes that vibe. It really draws you in and you quickly forget that this is in fact an Aliens ripoff, and it starts to be its own thing. And while it might be a little bit of a ripoff, Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space does more with its theme than Whitehall does. So because of that, round one goes to Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space.
Round two.
Components. All right, so this game is originally done by Gochiunti? I don't know. It's a game by Fantasy Flight, and if you know Fantasy Flight, they're known for a lot of stuff in this box, a terrible insert, but the quality is really good. The problem with this game is it's functional. You have your board, you have your bits, you have your clear little disc, and that's it. You open the box, you're greeted with a very nice board. The board is of nice quality. The components, everything is functional. And you know, it does the job. However, when you open up Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space, look at this beautiful box. This Osprey thing, first thing you're met with is this, and look at all this beautiful black and white, the way the components are stored in the box, the way everything, the quality, the cards are black, so they're gonna chip a little bit, but the quality and everything for this game is through the roof. This is the Ultimate Edition, and it really feels like they put a lot of care and time into making these components last a long time, as opposed to Whitehall Mysteries, which is just essentially a game in a box. So ladies and gentlemen, round two goes to Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space.
Round three.
Coolest game mechanic. So let's talk about the hidden movement. Every hidden movement game is usually one person versus a group of people. Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space is actually a group of people, possibly versus another group of people. You are either the alien or you are the humans, and you don't really know who's on whose team. You just kind of figure it out. you know what you are and then you know what they are. But in Whitehall Chapel, it's one versus all. The coolest game mechanic in Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space come from this deck of cards. Whenever you move onto a space, it's one of two things. It is either a safe sector in which you announce that it's silent, or you have to make noise in which you draw one of these cards. These cards will either be, boom, silence in all sectors. It will be, boop, made a noise in sector this one, which will alert the table to where you are, or it will be noise in any sector. You can make up where that noise is. And the trick is that when you draw the card, people don't know what it is. You don't have to reveal it. So you could be telling the truth that that's where you are. You could be lying with that's where you are. Or you could just say what the card is, which don't make any noise. And that is very good. It's very good that it gives you the option to lie. The issue with this game mechanic is that everyone at the table is doing it. It's not just one person doing it. Whenever it is a many versus one, then the one person usually has a lot of tools at their disposal, but all the other players can work together to try to figure out what they're doing, so it balances out. In this game, everyone has the option to do all this bullshittery to try to figure out where, who's going what, and it's a lot to keep track of, but it's a really neat thing. Now, Whitehall Chapel, its coolest game mechanic is a very simple affair. This game has you as Jack either moving from number to number, or as the investigators moving from square to square to try to catch him and block him off. Now, as a Jack player and as the detectives, you have an option to use different abilities to move more than one space, move around a block, or move through the water. It's a simple thing. It's focused. Because it is many versus all, whenever Jack uses one of his abilities to move more than once, there's an automatic discussion at the table. Oh shit, where did he go? Where do you think he went? If he was here, then he was here. Where did he go? You're working together. And it really feels like, oh, that one little drop in the bucket changes everything. Because if those weren't there and Jack is just moving, it's just huddling around and it's easy. But whenever you add the boat, the alley, and the carriage, all of a sudden, the city just gets a lot bigger. One little drop caused a ripple to change the entire face of this game. And it's very focused. So while I do believe that the cooler mechanic might in fact be drawing the cards, because it's so wild and you don't know who to trust at the table, you don't really know who you can trust to tell the truth and who you can't. So while that might be a cooler mechanic thematically, functionally, the cooler mechanic and the winner goes to Whitehall Mysteries.
Round 4.
Competition. As I mentioned, Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. Competition, it is a free-for-all. You don't know who is on whose team. You don't know what's going on. You're having to keep all these notes. You are trying to scribble on the side about where you think other people are. You, as a solo person, have to keep track of all of the other players. And it is a lot. Oh, did I mention? There's no board in this. It is just one of the various maps that you are filling in with where you are and where you believe the other people are. That's the problem. Your competition is with the whole table. Those who you can trust, those who you can't, you don't even know. But even those who you can trust, they're trying to get to an escape pod before you. So it's everyone versus everyone. And it is chaotic as balls. But when it works, ooh, does it work. So the competition is tense in a way that kind of snaps. Because at some point, you're just gonna kind of go, whatever, and you're just gonna go. But I think that's pretty thematic, because in a horror movie like this, you see where the finish line is, you just run for it. But eventually, one of the aliens is gonna pull the trigger to think they know where you are, and once that alien does that, and you know that that person is definitely the alien and where they are, all the tension in the game is gone. So if the game goes, let's say, an hour, for about 40 minutes of that, it is silence at the table. It is dead tension, just. But then once the first alien decides to pull the trigger, it's just a free-for-all. It is the board game equivalent of flipping on a light switch and having all the roaches scatter across the floor. Whitehall Mysteries, on the other hand, the competition is you versus the other players, or the other players versus you. As Jack, your competition is against all of them. You have a board, you can see where everyone is, and you can have a very real understanding of what their options are and where you can move. The investigators can move 1 to 2 squares, and Jack can only move 1 space without using a card. And the squares, you can see, oh, well, if I move here, then they can't get here. If I move here, they can't get here. Because after the investigator moves, they can choose a space to either declare an arrest or they can ask if Jack has been there, in which you will lay down a token, and they can kind of Hansel and Gretel it to breadcrumb back to good old nasty Jack. And as the investigators, you are having a conversation with each other about where you think he is, where you think he isn't, if you should split up, if you should stay together. You're working together as a co-op against the one person, and it really feels like a competitive scene. And whenever you're Jack and you're sitting back there and you're watching all these guys talk, you're just crossing your fingers and hoping they don't notice the one thing that they missed. Because in these movies and in these stories, the detective always misses one vital clue. And Jack sitting there going, oh, if you would have just did this instead of that, you would have caught me. Or if an inspector calls for a clue instead of an arrest, and that's the space you're on, Jack is just sweating his balls off, sitting in that chair. Somebody get this man a rag, because he is sweating it off. Competition is about how you feel at the table, the tension, and if you're working together or if you're against the other person. Whitehall Mysteries, you are working against the other person or with a large enough group of people to feel like there is a cohesive direction. If they make a false arrest on a space, it's not the end of the game, the tension still stays there. And if good old nasty Jack gets to a space to drop off another body part, everyone is like, oh, where did he go? How did he get there? And they can try to figure it out together. While Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space, very tense at first, snaps under the chaotic nature of everything. So round 4 goes to Whitehall Mystery.
Final round.
Are they fun? Let's talk housekeeping. Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. 2 to 8 players. I have played this with as little as 3 and as many as a full 8. And what a difference this game is at a lower player count than a high player count. The max I would play this with is 4, maybe 5. The more players you introduce, the more aliens you introduce. And the more shit that you have to keep track of. And it is a lot of shit to keep track of. Whew. 20 to 45 minutes. It can be a very quick game at the smaller player counts. The more players you have, the longer it goes. The longest game I've had has taken about 30 minutes, and that's usually about as long as it takes before somebody fucks up and somebody gets caught and eaten. And then ages 12 and up. Okay, there's nothing grotesque, it's just a tense kind of whatever. Now Whitehall, 2 to 4 players. I have played with as little as 2, and I have played it with a full set. Now, a full set and 2 players as Jack is the exact same, but there's a lot more room for error because there's a lot of different ideas being thrown around. But it's also a lot harder because one person at the table is gonna see what's going on when the other people maybe didn't. At 2 players, it is basically a mind game. It is, go ahead, move, go. No, why would you do that? Oh, sure, go ahead, do that. Okay, sure, why not? But it's equally fun at both player counts. 60 minutes, no. Maybe if everyone is talking a lot, it's 60 minutes, with setup and everything maybe, but I would say no longer than 40 or 45. It's a very short game, and if you as dumb old Jack get caught, it's a lot shorter. And then ages 13 and up. It is a graphic thing. You are extruding body parts, and it's kind of gross. There's no grotesque art or anything in there, but the subject nature of everything is kind of gnarly. So if I'm gonna get together and I will play a maximum of 4 players with this, and this goes to a maximum of 4 players, I mean, at the end of the day, it kind of answers its own question. But let's get into it a little bit deeper. Whitehall Mystery has you doing a very simple thing. Jack moves, writes it down. Investigators move, guess where he is, and tries to do other things. They have an option to use a special ability, and if they use your special ability, which is just one of the things Jack can do or calling someone over to help them out, then that's all they can do. They can't do clues as well. Jack has a couple of different movement options. As I mentioned, you can use a boat, go through some alleys, or double carriage move. You also have other options to use if you have Hey Boss or Dear Boss and Letters from Whitechapel, the 2 original big games, but you don't really need that. I've played those games as well, and those games felt like a game of tag. It was always like, dead woman or run back to base, dead woman or run back to base, dead woman or run back to base. And it got a little repetitive. And the board is big and it's a lot. But Whitehall Mysteries, it's not a game of tag, it's a chase. And the game here is meant to be more of a chasing down of Jack. It'll be 3 rounds max, and at the very beginning, the investigator knows where Jack starts. And then go, and then go, and then go. Instead of going A base, B base, C base, it's A to B to C to D. So it's more of a race, more of a relay than a game of tag like I mentioned. And it is fun, it is tense, it is more fun than I remember. The Jack player also has a nice screen in front of them so they can't see where your eyes are, and you can kind of look where whatever's are. If you use one of the special movement tokens, it actually takes 2 of his movements, because you have 15 turns to get from point A to point B, 15 more to get from point B to C, then C to D. Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space is a fine game. The times I've played it, I've had a lot of fun. But there's a level of complexity here that this type of game I'm not really looking for. Not the hidden movement game. I think a hidden movement game can be very complex. And there might be a game I look at in the future that is a very complex hidden movement game. No. I'm talking about the player count. When you move up to that many players, and I think this game is the best when it's at 4 players. So when you play it with 2 players, it's kind of a what? If you play it with 3 players, you're like, oh, I wish we had someone else. But if you play it at 6, you're like, this is too many. So it's almost a party style hidden movement game. I don't have a party lifestyle, so I don't have enough people to get around. And whenever I do have a hidden movement game to get to the table, it usually has to be a smaller one. So the Is It Fun? Both games are fun. One game has more fun than the other because of the options that it provides me. So round 5 and the final round goes to Whitehall Mystery. And the winner of this hidden movement death match is Whitehall Mysteries. Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. Out of my hard 100. I have enjoyed the shit out of you. I think there are people that will enjoy you a lot more. Your theme is really good. You really take the alien theme and make it your own with just the entire vibe that this box invokes. The components also do a great job of sucking you in and making you really feel like you're on this battle station. The silence around the table as the first few turns go really drives it. The only thing you're missing is a drippy faucet in the background. But when it comes to the mechanics, while they are good thematically, mechanically, it's where it stumbles. And that's when Whitehall Mystery has a chance to shine in its simplicity. The way it adds that drop in the bucket for Jack to be able to move around really opens up the city. It takes that Where's Waldo and turns it to a full-on death race. Once it has your attention with that simple addition, it will then take the game and really draw in everyone at the table to keep their attention for the full playtime. And it will be fun every single minute as opposed to just 70% of it. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have not played either one of these games, Whitehall is the better game. If you already have Letters from Whitechapel, you don't really need this. But if you're looking to downsize, this is delicious, and I recommend it. If you have a larger group and you want to give it a shot, Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space is by no means a bad game. It's just not as good as Whitehall. So while both are good, one is just slightly better than the other. And when it comes to the old hard 100 in the back, Whitehall is in. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this, the latest edition of the Death Match. One of those games is perfect for my shelf. It might be good for yours if you're looking for a good smaller count hidden movement game. If you're looking for a bigger one that's you can't go wrong with Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. Just know that at some point that tension is going to go away and it's not going to mean as much. However, there are other hidden movement games out there, and I think that it's possible that Whitehall Mysteries might have another challenger coming up, and it might not stay in its place for very long. Peace out.